Let's now move to functional approaches to second language acquisition. Unlike nativist approaches, functional theories of language learning believe in the external factors of learning, and they believe that external factors are responsible for the learning a second language. These approaches come to us somewhere in the 20th century and are closely associated with the Prague School of Linguistics. Functional approaches believe in language as a system of communication instead of language merely a system of rules of structure. They also focus on the functions or the content of information conveyed by language use. Various functions are performed by language, and some of the functions focused on by functional linguistics or functional theorists are those which are related to structural functions. This includes that the various elements of language may perform various functions, for example, those of a subject or an object or of an actor or of a goal. Related to this are the functions which we know as pragmatic functions, and these functions are usually based on the use of a language in a certain context. We see that these functional theories came as a reaction to nativist theories, and they are quite different from them. A few of the dimensions in which they are different from each other, let's have a look at them. In first instance, the focus of functional theories is both on the performance and the competence of language. They do not ignore anyone, though they consider performance as one of the key features. Still, there is no harsh or strict distinction made between them. And the scope of functional theories also goes beyond the structure of language or from sentence to discourse, which is the larger level of communication. And this helps researchers to dig deep into the meanings of language as a whole or as a discourse. There are 4 functional schools primarily, or subfields of these theories. Let's have a look at them. First one among them is a systemic linguistics, which come to us through Halliday, and this believes in analyzing language through some interrelated system of choices which are available to the learners while using a language. Halliday believes that learning a language is actually getting a mastery over the functions of that language, or learning how to mean by using a language. There are certain universal functions of all languages, and Halliday also talks about them. He thinks that these functions are usually performed by a majority of the languages in the world, and among them, some of them are the following, like instrumental, regulatory, heuristic, interactional, personal, imagination, and representational. L2 learning may also be seen as a multilingual addition to the meaning-making repertoire of an individual. We know the meaning of a certain thing in one language, and by learning a second language, this skill is added on. So, this is an added benefit. We have functional typology coming next. This approach believes in analyzing various languages by comparing them and by finding some similarities among them, so that they may be employed to find some common features among the languages being used in the world. This approach is also applied in second language acquisition in the field of the development of second language process, or the development of second language learning. The next approach is function to form approach. This implies in the analysis of interlanguage, and this emphasizes on the pattern of function to form. By that we mean that while performing a certain function, the researcher or the user might refer to context while conveying a certain message instead of straightaway jumping to the form. For example, we might convey what we were doing yesterday by using the context when we are learning a new language, instead of cramming or learning that form instantly. So through this passage, they try to tell us that function probably takes precedence over form in many of the functions we perform in our daily communication. The last theory in this regard is information organization. This focuses on the utterance structure. In other words, this may be said, how people put together the words they speak. It also describes the structures of interlanguage, which, as I mentioned earlier, is the intermediate grammar or language of the learners.